All right, let's dive in. We've got a ton of material on DNA today.
Yeah, DNA editing, sequencing, all that.
Seems like you're really interested in this stuff, so let's unpack it, see what we find.
It's amazing, really, all the real-world stuff happening, not just theory.
Right. Like CRISPR. You sent a bunch of articles about that. It's a gene editing tool, right?
Yeah.
But what's so special about it? We've been editing genes for a while now.
It's the precision, you see. CRISPR is like, imagine correcting a typo, but in your DNA. Super accurate.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's being used to actually treat genetic diseases now.
Oh, yeah, like that article about Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Exactly. They're trying to use CRISPR to fix the mutation that causes it. Could be huge, because there's no cure right now.
Huge is right. And it's not just treating symptoms, it's fixing the problem at its root.
Exactly. It's a potential cure, not a Band-Aid. And there's more.
Yeah.
You sent some stuff about base editing and prime editing, too.
Yeah, they were fascinating. Base editing can change. Like a single letter in the DNA code doesn't even cut the strand.
I know, right? And prime editing, it's like a search and replace for DNA. You can insert or delete specific information.
Super precise.
Yeah. So much potential there, especially for those really specific genetic errors that cause some diseases.
Absolutely. Oh, and what about that article on the cost of sequencing a human genome? Blew my mind.
I know. From billions of dollars and years of work to, what, under $1,000 in a few days?
It's crazy how fast things are changing.
I know, right? And this is opening the door to personalized medicine, treatments tailored to your specific genes.
Which is a perfect segue to the Oxford Nanopore Minion, that tiny sequencer. It's being used everywhere.
Yeah, the Minion is incredible, not just because of its size, but it uses this nanopore technology to analyze DNA in real time.
You can actually watch the sequencing happen.
Yep, game changer, especially for like tracking outbreaks. That article about them using it in a remote village?
Yeah. They sequenced the virus right there, helped them understand how it was spreading.
Amazing, right? Portable, affordable sequencing means you can take it anywhere. Rainforest, the ocean, even space.
Really opens up who can do this research. And speaking of access, what about the article on how DNA sequencing is changing diagnoses?
Oh yeah, personalized medicine in action. Sequencing a patient's genome can help doctors pinpoint the cause of a disease, then target treatment, so better outcomes, fewer side effects.
Like that woman with breast cancer, right?
Oh.
They sequenced her tumor and found a mutation that qualified her for a very specific therapy.
Amazing stuff. So cool to see it making a difference in people's lives. But DNA tech isn't just about healthcare, You also sent some stuff on agriculture.
Yeah, gene editing for better crops. Disease-resistant, drought-tolerant, even more nutritious.
Imagine that addressing food shortages with crops engineered to thrive in tough conditions.
Huge potential there. Oh, and there was that article on DNA analysis solving cold cases.
Yeah, DNA evidence is so powerful and it's getting even more accurate. Not just catching criminals, but clearing innocent people too.
That story about the guy who was wrongfully convicted, it's incredible that this tech can right those wrongs.
Powerful stuff. And beyond that, DNA can trace our ancestry, map migration patterns over centuries.
Like that article on how it's changing what we thought we knew about the first humans in the Americas.
I know. It's amazing. Our DNA holds so many secrets about who we are, where we came from. Fascinating.
But with all this amazing potential comes some pretty big questions, right? Like, we can manipulate DNA, but should we?
Yeah, you're hitting on something really important, like this designer baby concept, that we could choose our kids' traits. Eye color, height, maybe even intelligence?
It's kind of scary, to be honest. Those articles you sent about parents picking and choosing. Where do we draw the line between preventing disease and just, enhancing things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a blurry line. What's a disease to one person might just be like a difference to someone else.
And then there's the whole, making humans better idea.
Yeah.
Who gets to decide what better even means?
Exactly. And imagine, only rich people can afford to enhance their kids. We'd have this whole new level of inequality.
A genetic class system. Not good.
And there's the stuff we don't know. Unintended consequences. We're still figuring out the human genome. One little change could snowball into who knows what.
One of those articles talked about how genes can have multiple jobs, mess with one, and you might accidentally affect others.
Right.
Or even cause new diseases.
Right. It's all interconnected. We got to be really careful. Lots more research needed before we go tweaking things for enhancements.
So benefits versus risks. Which brings up all this stuff about, regulations, ethical guidelines.
Huge, huge point. With this kind of power, we absolutely need rules, safety standards, consent, making sure it's fair, everyone has access.
And it's not just the government, right? Scientists need to be talking to each other, to the public, making sure we're using this responsibly.
Couldn't agree more. Public input is key. Open discussions, different viewpoints, that's how we make sure this tech benefits everyone.
Because at the end of the day, tech itself isn't good or bad. It's how we choose to use it, right?
Exactly. Gene editing, it can be a force for good or not so good. It's on us to make sure it's the former.
Okay, so back to CRISPR for a sec. It's not just for treating diseases, right? You said some really cool stuff on agriculture.
Oh, yeah, CRISPR is doing amazing things for crops, engineering them to be tougher, resist pests and diseases.
And those articles on making crops that need less water or have more nutrients, that's huge for feeding the planet, especially with climate change happening.
It could be revolutionary. Imagine engineering food that thrives in tough conditions, less hunger, better nutrition.
Exactly. But of course, there are always concerns like, genetically modified stuff outcompeting natural species, losing biodiversity.
Right, that's a valid concern. Got to be careful about that. Sustainable use, protecting the environment, those are musts.
And then unintended consequences again. Like we talked about before, changing a gene might have ripple effects we don't see right away.
Absolutely. Thorough research is key. And transparency. Consumers have the right to know what's in their food, if it's been modified or not.
Exactly. Openness is crucial, especially when it comes to something as basic as food. This isn't just a science issue. It affects everyone.
You got it.
Yeah.
We got to work together on this, make sure this tech benefits everyone, protects the planet for the future.
Now, switching gears a bit, you also sent some fascinating stuff on DNA tech in forensic science. Already super impactful, but getting even more powerful.
Oh yeah, it's mind-blowing. Not just identifying suspects or clearing the innocent. Now they can even predict a suspect's appearance from DNA.
Like that article about the cold case, where they made a sketch from DNA. Crazy. We can basically see someone we've never met.
Never know, right? And it goes beyond looks. They can figure out ancestry, geographic origin. Super useful when you have few leads.
Remember that article about the decades-old murder? They found the killer through a distant relative's DNA. It's incredible. Like, DNA is rewriting justice.
It's amazing. And constantly evolving. They can get DNA from teeny tiny samples, even degraded ones. Huge for cold cases.
It's like we're pushing the limits of what's possible. But with power comes responsibility, right? This stuff has to be used ethically. People's privacy needs to be protected.
100%. Any tech can be misused, and DNA's no different. Clear rules, careful use. That's the only way.
And there's that worry about DNA databases, What if employers or insurance companies get hold of that info? Discrimination based on your genes.
That's a huge concern. We need strong laws to prevent that. Genetic privacy is a fundamental right.
So it's not just the science that's complex, but the ethics too. We've talked about gene editing, medicine, forensics. DNA tech is changing the world.
And we're just getting started. It's a rapidly evolving field, so staying informed and thinking about the ethical side is crucial.
Absolutely. This has been a really insightful deep dive. But like you said, the conversation continues. Thanks for exploring this with me. We've talked about gene editing and medicine and all that, but those articles you sent on ancient DNA, that stuff really blew my mind.
Oh yeah, paleogenetics. It's incredible what we can learn from the past now, like sequencing DNA from ancient remains, Gives us a whole new perspective on human history.
It's like rewriting the history books, like that article about how Neanderthals and modern humans, we actually interbred. I always thought that was just a theory.
It was, but now we have the DNA evidence. And it's not just Neanderthals. We're finding out about entire human populations we never knew existed, how they migrated, how they domesticated animals, even how languages evolved.
That article about the 10,000-year-old skeleton from Britain, they sequenced his genome, and it turns out this guy had dark skin, blue eyes, and was genetically linked to, the Middle East.
I know, right? Totally changes how we picture ancient Europeans. It's like DNA is showing us that the past was way more diverse than we thought.
And it's not just about looks. We can learn about diseases, too, right? Like how they spread, how they've changed over time.
Exactly. That article about the Black Death, remember? They traced its origins back to Central Asia and saw how it mutated as it spread across the world.
Crazy. And that kind of research, it's not just history, right? It can help us fight diseases today.
You got it. Understanding the evolution of diseases, it can help us develop better treatments, prevention strategies. It's like the past holds clues for the future of medicine.
Makes you realize how connected we are to, those who came before us It's all in our DNA.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff, and there's still so much to discover. This field is just exploding with new findings all the time.
It really feels like we're living in a golden age of scientific discovery,
Hmm.
and DNA is at the heart of it all.
It really is. But, we've got to remember all those ethical considerations we talked about. It's not just about the science, it's about using it wisely.
Couldn't agree more. Responsibility, ethical use. That's the key to making sure this tech benefits everyone.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from gene editing to personalized medicine to ancient DNA. It's been a wild ride.
It really has. I feel like I've learned so much. And, it's left me with this sense of awe, this feeling of how amazing our DNA
I
is.
know what you mean. It's incredible to think about all the secrets it holds. And remember, the future of DNA research, it's up to all of us staying informed, having these conversations. That's how we shape a better future with this technology.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. And to everyone listening, thanks for coming along for the ride. Keep those minds curious, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic.